And then kind of onto like some nutrition. What does your pre-contest diet look like? I know you said earlier that it changes all the time, but what's kind of like the steady constant?
Well, I think a lot of people will be interested to know that I don't eat like 8 times a day. I eat 4 times during the day and 1 time at night. I have to wake up every night to go to the bathroom. So one thing I started doing was I just have a shake pre-made in my fridge, and I down that. So I eat a total of 5 times a day. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you got to eat every 2 or 3 hours. And actually what my research showed at Illinois was if you eat too frequently, it's actually counterproductive. It's counterproductive for anabolism. You're better off waiting a little bit longer in between meals and having bigger doses of food. And that seems to be actually better for hypertrophy. When you try to kind of titrate in amino acids, keep them kind of constantly elevated, trickle them in, over time your body actually becomes less sensitive to the anabolic effects of amino acids, where if you do larger doses and separate a little bit further apart, your body is more sensitive when the next dose comes around and you get a better response. So, yeah, a lot of people, when I tell them about that, they kind of, they go, oh my God, you know, how do you deal with that? And a lot of people will say, well, you know, I could never do that. I get way too hungry. Well, the reason they're so hungry is because they eat 8 times a day. Their body's used to getting food every 2 hours. So when they first switched, the first time I switched to trying this out, yeah, I was hungry too. But after a week, after my body adjusted, I don't get hungry anymore in between meals because my body is so good at producing its own glucose. It's not relying on the outside sources of glucose. So I actually have less hunger than I did when I ate, you know, 6 to 8 times a day. So I think that's one kind of different thing I do that a lot of people don't really. It's kind of like counter bro science, counter what is normally done. But for me, kind of my philosophy is, you know, first thing is first with in terms of protein, carbs, and fats. I make sure I'm eating enough protein to maintain my muscle mass when I'm dieting down. For me, on a normal day, I'm taking around 270 grams. And then, you know, I make sure I'm eating enough fat for, you know, to make sure I'm staying healthy and have enough, you know, enough for testosterone production, all those sorts of things. And then I kind of fill in whatever's left over caloric-wise with carbohydrates. And, you know, my general feeling is I want to keep carbs as high as possible while still losing the appropriate amount of body fat. Now, for everybody, that number is going to be different. I had a guy who he was able to diet and get shredded on 400 grams of carbs a day. Now, obviously, he's a rare exception. I've had other guys where I got to take, you know, they got to go down to 50 or 40 or whatever. You know, they're basically ketogenic. So that number is different for everybody. And that's why you can't take, you know, you can't necessarily take a diet that works for one person and apply it to another person because it won't work for them. That's why I always kind of chuckle when you got these guys out there who are like, they put everybody on a high carb diet or they put everybody on a low carb diet. And it's like, you know, if I had put the guy I was talking about earlier, the guy who's eating 400 grams of carbs a day and getting shredded, if I put him on a ketogenic diet, he would have turned into a string bean. You know what I mean? Yeah, and so it's just, you know, you got to be willing to be adaptable. So, you know, don't necessarily look at what I do and say, oh, okay, well, that's what I need to do because he's getting in shape and those sorts of things. Understand your own body and how your own body responds to various manipulations in macronutrient. I wrote an article for Muscular Development a while back called The Great Macronutrient Debate. And I basically went through a lot of scientific issues and theories, but then I said at the end, I said, you know, no matter how much science you read into this, at the end of the day, there is no replacement for experimentation and keeping kind of a journal or a log or understanding how your body responds to various manipulations in protein and carb and fat intake. Because as much as we can explain through science, there's some things that we can't explain. There are some phenomenon that I know to be true just from me working with hundreds of people that I can't necessarily explain through research. And I think eventually we will be able to. But, and so I think, you know, a lot of people look at me and say, oh, well, he's just a science guy. He's just a nerdy science guy. No, I'm a big fan of anecdotal evidence as well, but I'm a fan of anecdotal evidence when it's supported by research even more. So I think it's important to have both those aspects of things. So for me, when I started dieting, I was at 270 grams of protein, 60 grams of fat, and about 230 grams of carbs, and then I'd have a carb up day where I'd go up to like around 400. And now, near the end of my prep, I'm around 150 grams of carbs a day and about 325 on my higher carb days. So, my metabolism slowed down. I had to compensate by getting more aggressive. I've also added more cardio in. Again, you can't think that what your diet is when you start out, you're not going to be able to stay on that in most cases and keep losing body fat, because your body will start fighting you at a certain point. You're going to have to get more aggressive by either dropping calories, increasing cardio, or doing a little bit of both. And so that's why, again, it's important to be tracking your macro, especially in contest prep, be tracking your macronutrient intake, be tracking what you're doing cardio-wise, and not just going through, I was kind of light today, so I'm going to skip a cardio day, or I was kind of heavy today, I'm going to do more cardio and drop my cardio. You don't want to be bouncing around like that. You want to stick on a game plan and look at your outcomes at the end of the week. Say, okay, did I lose enough fat this week? If not, all right, let's get more aggressive. And just be kind of really detached and scientific and really break it down that way.
Okay. And then real quick before we go on to any more nutrition, you have a training DVD called Unleashed. Awesome DVD. I would definitely recommend you get it. But I heard a vicious rumor that you're coming out with a new DVD.
Yeah, we're actually sold out of Unleashed right now, and that's I got to get on the ball about that. I kind of 4 months ago we actually sold out of it, and I kind of thought, okay, well, I'm gonna let this thing's run its course. I'm not gonna reorder anymore, because the minimum reorder is actually pretty expensive. People think I make a lot of money off the DVD. I really don't. After shipping and cost of filming and everything, it's really just something. I do make money off of it, but it's more something I put out there because it's a huge accomplishment to do something like that, and it was a lot of fun. But I've been getting such a large amount of demand for the past 6 months. People saying, "Hey, I can't find your DVD. I can't find your DVD." That I think we're probably going to come back out with it. But yeah, we are filming a new DVD. It's going to be more of a documentary style. There is going to be information in it, but it's going to be a little bit more documentary. The last DVD was almost solely information based. It was, really not a whole lot of my story, a little bit of background, but it's mostly information based. This one will be a little bit more heavily towards the story, the contest prep, what goes into it. But there's going to be information in there too. It's going to be a good combination of both. And so it's going to track me, leading up to my shows. We've got some footage from me, actually, my graduation from my PhD. So it's got a lot of cool stuff in there. But yeah, it's kind of going to be a real day in the life. How does it, what do I do when I'm getting ready for contest? How do I deal with the physical and the mental and the emotional? Because contest prep, people don't realize, unless you've ever done it, you just really can't understand how difficult it tugs at you. I can handle the hunger, I can handle the lethargy, I can handle all those things. That doesn't bother me. It sucks, but I'll handle it. But really, the mental and emotional mind games you play with yourself, thinking one day, oh, I look great, I'm going to be ready, I'm way above ahead of schedule, and the next day you might not look so good. Oh, I'm way behind, and then you start playing mind games with yourself, looking at the scale, and maybe you look a little bit leaner, but the scale's going up for some reason. Really, even though, as a science guy, I might know certain things. I might say, okay, Layne, you're doing fine. The insecurities in all of us, we all have these, and they really come to the forefront during contest prep, because there's nothing like being up on stage in posing trunks and having your body critiqued by a panel of professional judges to really, just scare the crap out of you. You know what I mean? And so it's just the mental aspects and the psychological things you have to overcome to look your best and get on stage. I think people are going to be surprised, who haven't competed, who watch it, and then people who do compete, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, I've been through that. I know exactly what he's talking about." And it's going to show a little bit more of, how my wife is involved in my life, and how she supports me. And because she's been a huge part of what I do. I always tell people, you can do this without somebody, but you can't do it with somebody opposing you. And she's just been a huge part of helping me be successful. And really, they say marriage is a team effort, and I've come to learn over the past couple of years that's totally true. Because again, I did well before I met her. But when we got together, it was just like she made everything I do. She made me better at everything I do, and not even necessarily just that support, just having that support, and knowing somebody's got your back like that, no matter what. And so there's gonna be more of that in there. And so you're gonna get to see, the ups, the downs, the high points, the low points, and it doesn't hold back. I've seen a lot of DVDs and I've seen a lot of journals of people where they kind of make contest prep out to be this, everything's great, there's nothing wrong, and it's like, no, I know it doesn't go like that, I know it's hard, and so, it's not always glamorous, and so, I kind of wanted to, and it's, it's not all terrible either, obviously I enjoy it or I wouldn't do it, right. But it does test you mentally and physically, and for everybody, there's a point at which they want to break, and that's the point that you got to push through. And so, hopefully, the DVD is going to help kind of show people, what those things are.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see it.
Click here for part 5 of the Layne Norton interview, where we wrap up his nutritional philosophy and close the show.